Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matt Report. Another great episode today with a gentleman named Peter Kang. He runs an agency out in New York, and he's got an info product. And I know you're probably eyes twitching, ready to hit next on the old iTunes play button. This is a different twist on an info product, and one that I think that you'll be really interested to learn about. Number one, he and his team are still running an agency out in New York, and they also have this info product, which is agency docs. And it's a way to sort of like an agency in a box, if you will, for, contract templates, proposal templates, other different frameworks. And it's not just high level theoretical stuff that he has here, which we see a lot of in the internet marketing space. And in fact, we talk about that in the show. It's just a great sort of nice little kit for you to run your agency, or to at least help you out in some of these areas that they highlight. Now, we also talk about not only how is he setting his info product apart from the rest, but how is he going to balance that along with agency life? And the stories that we get into is like, why, as entrepreneurs, people who are building an agency first or a consulting practice first, because it's a quicker way to get money than a product, right? You're providing a service for somebody. They want you to build them a website. You charge them $1,000, and it's just instant gratification most of the time for both parties. It's a fast way to get big lumps of cash versus a product, which might take you a lot of time to R&D, develop, market, launch, and all that fun stuff. But we talk about why is it? Why do we chase the unicorn of a product? I think many of us are inspired by what 37 Signals launched many, many years ago and the stories that they told. And those of us getting into the agency space who used Basecamp at the time, we're just like, wow, we want to make a product too. Like, they're making awesome software for us. This is really cool. How can we do this same thing? We're in the agency space too. And we talked about how some of the failures of his early products, brought him to this point of, I'm on my last leg here. We failed at a couple other products, and I'm going to make this agency docs in a weekend and see what happens. And it took off. And it's a testament to those quick little wins that sometimes we spend months or years on a product only to see it sort of, plateau or even fail, when, the quick inspirational wins are the ones that actually do really well. And I can tell you from the two products that I have, user feedback videos and easy support videos, are two products and services that didn't take much effort, but the gains outweigh, the time and investment it took by 10, 20 times. It's crazy, those wins and how they come about. So if you're thinking of starting a product, this is going to be a great episode for you. If you already have a product, or especially an info product, this is going to be a great episode for you. I also got to say that just as a little feather in Peter's cap, I don't accept a lot of cold emails to be on the show. I want to respect the value of you listening and get the right content for you. And in fact, right before I hit record on this, somebody sent me an email, and it's a typical textbook 101 pitch of why they should be on the show and how they'll help my audience, yada yada yada. And then they ended it with, and oh, by the way, we've got this great affiliate program too. And it's like, oh man, this is not why I do this show. It's not meant to just, get people on and, rapidly fire people every day for weeks just to make some affiliate cash, which I know a lot of other podcasts do. That's not what this is about. Really hope you can spend a moment to do a 5-star review. We're back in the top spot in the careers page of iTunes, which is great. It helps us keep a nice little uptick in listeners and subscribers. So thank you very much. The blue collar WordPress worker article that I put out and podcast that I put out last week is really the driving force behind that, because I'm getting more reviews that way. I'm getting more downloads because a lot of folks in the community have been sharing it. If you haven't seen it, give it a listen or go over to mattreport.com. Check out a lot of the insightful comments from people in the community saying, you know what? Yes, we have to really think about where WordPress is going for our business moving forward. So with WordCamp US around the corner, I hope you can take a chance to, or have a chance to listen to that and maybe even share your opinions with others at WordCamp US. It's mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Let's get into the show.
I'm a co-founder and creative director at an agency called Barrel. So we're based in New York City, and we've been around for 11 plus years now. And yeah, we service clients, build websites for them, do quite a bit of WordPress as well as Shopify. And in terms of how we service our clients, we're doing digital marketing, analytics, as well as just helping them with their overall digital strategy.
So, and this is a good point. I've been listening to a lot of folks sort of talk about WooCommerce versus Shopify. Do you get into that with your clients, or do most of your clients just come to you and say, "Hey, look, I want Shopify. Maybe integrate that with our WordPress marketing site or blog side of things," or do you ever get into the weeds of maybe we should build on WooCommerce, maybe we should build on Shopify? How does that all play out at your agency?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of, they're pretty distinct in terms of our types of clients. So a lot of our WordPress work actually falls on the nonprofit slash arts slash B2B side of things. And then we have our e-commerce clients who, have a very, straightforward, they're selling products and they want to have that e-commerce experience. And we made a conscious decision to, whenever there's e-commerce involved, we were going to do Shopify. But whenever there's a lot of content and not much e-commerce, we said, okay, WordPress is going to be our go-to for that. And so, yeah, we have a very simple dichotomy of like choices whenever a client comes to us.
You have a beautiful, beautiful website, by the way. It's barrelny.com for folks who are listening. Check
Thank
that
you.
out. So walk me down that decision tree, if you could. What about Shopify made you say, you know what, this is the platform that we're going to deal with e-commerce. We're not even going to look at WooCommerce. Did you try running a WooCommerce site before, or maybe cobble together another e-commerce solution on WordPress and say, oh boy, this isn't going to help?
Yeah, I think it was just, there were a couple instances where we got burned where, I think just the upkeep of like updating WooCommerce itself and, just kind of the other add-ons and, plugins, associated plugins that we had to keep on maintaining just got to be a bit too much. And also plugins not working after a while too, right? Like sometimes you think you have the right plugin and then, that the person, maintaining or the company that's, supposed to maintain that kind of goes defunct. And so all of a sudden this plugin you relied on doesn't work anymore, right? So those risks like really kind of took a toll and like, led to some kind of, unpleasant experiences on our end. And so, with Shopify, I think some of those problems are alleviated. And so, it made us more willing to, jump ship on that type of site.
On the flip side of your experiences, has a client ever come to you and said, hey, we're really enjoying what you can customize for us on the WordPress side of things. We love the fact that we have access to sort of all of this data and it's super flexible. Maybe we can tap into other APIs and really just customize the whole experience from the content publishing side all the way to the visitor coming to the site. And they say to you, we want that same experience on e-commerce. Do you find limitations with Shopify that you would say, you know what, some of this openness of WordPress is a good thing. Maybe we wish we had this with Shopify. You ever come across that sort of scenario?
Sure. So on very special cases, so like for most e-commerce, I think there's a simplicity to, I mean, there's value in, in simplicity and like, having conventions that consumers are familiar with when they're going through the site. So we don't get, too many things that we can't do in Shopify. But when it comes to, for example, membership subscriptions, premium content, so where there's a bit more of that kind of experience where it's not straight e-commerce, but it's more of a subscription product, then a client might pause at some of the limitations Shopify has, or some of the things that are harder to manipulate. So at that point we might push WordPress and a WooCommerce integration, or some other plugin that can help with that portion of the project.
Got it. Switching gears just a little bit. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's an hour south of Boston, about 15 minutes from Providence, the capital of Rhode Island, Providence. And growing up in my agency, so I've been running it for about 10 years now, customers all over the world, yada, 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 built the portfolio and such. But just envious of folks who are in, mainstream, business meccas, right? I mean, arguably New York is the largest in the globe. I mean, one would think there's no problem running an agency over there. There's people ready to throw money at you at every turn, every turn of the way to the office, right? I mean, people are just sort of more open to larger projects. The scale of things, everything's bigger in sort of New York. Is that true? I mean, starting out, what was it like to secure clients and grow them? This is a big, meaty question, but I know a lot of folks in my audience are maybe small mom and pop type of agencies. They're not in New York. They're not finding that kind of clientele that gets it. There's a level of education that they have to do to onboard somebody to even understand what it's like to part ways with a few $1,000 for a website. What was it like starting this agency in New York? Better, worse? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I think New York, was definitely an amazing experience kind of building a business here. Obviously, once you get over some of the initial kind of hurdles where, there are some challenges with, like, for example, finding space, or negotiating a reasonable rent. I think, and especially when we started back then, there were no co-working spaces, or it was really hard to get a space for 3, 4 people, and so I think besides that though, there's so many people here, and I think it's so easy to do face-to-face meetings with all kinds of people, and I think that played to our advantage because you know you can go out to different meetups. There's hundreds of meetups happening every day. You can go to different, I went to school here in the city as well, so alumni events and everything else where you can meet people, learn what they're doing, and just easily connect with people and follow up with, a meeting or, drinks after work or coffee, and, just get to know and expand that network over time. And, I think the density of folks and how many people can introduce you to other people, like it just is so much easier because you have that access, and then to have them come down to our office and have that face to face just is so much. Whenever we can help it, we try to have our kickoffs and workshops in person, and just the sheer number of clients we have in the city makes that super easy.
Sort of the shining example of remote work is the parent company Automatic, parent company to WordPress.com, the company that I actually sell for, Pagely, an enterprise WordPress hosting company. We're all remote and remote working, but folks like you, obviously a shining example of what it's like to have in-person in-person meetings and workshops. Myself, when I was running my agency, same thing. We had a small office, and it was, just a beautiful experience. People walked in, and it was sort of a real tangible thing that somebody could experience. We weren't just meeting through Skype. But there's two trains of thought here. There's, hey, we can do all of this stuff remotely. We don't need people in an office. But then on the flip side, man, shaking somebody's hand and being able to gauge their body language when you're showing them a design is really, really valuable. What are your thoughts on remote? Do you plan on sort of stemming that way, or no? This is it. This is a way for us.
No, I mean, and so I've nothing against remote, and I think and I'm happy to accommodate. We've had employees who might be traveling and will work remotely, or we have had remote employees in the past. We certainly work with a lot of contractors who are remote, like all over the country and around the world. So I think we've set up systems to make that work. But I think there's just being in New York, I feel like it's a unique opportunity to have that energy. And there's something to, like, not just the office presence, but just being physically, like, say in Manhattan or Brooklyn, and just like going out to these events and meeting folks, and like as a cluster. So you have your team going out with your team, and like just being able to interact. And it's crazy. Like you go, we're down in like Soho, Little Italy area, and if you go out on a Friday, to one of these popular bars here, you see a ton of agency people working in the digital space, and like you're sure to find somebody that and like to connect with again, and you might even see people from startups there too. So there's always opportunities. You're running into folks who are, doing similar stuff or who could be your next client. So, it's quite the vibrant kind of community that they've got here.
Do you ever run into Gary Vaynerchuk and just like, look, man, relax with this agency building stuff, right? Leave some for the rest of us. And did you buy his sneakers yesterday? I gotta ask.
Oh man, oh we were talking about that because I got some sneakerhead team members here, and I mean they had their thoughts on the shoe, but I haven't. I mean, look, I love Gary V. I've always I followed his stuff since the Wine Library days, and like I think what he's done is really cool.
Yeah. So most agencies in the WordPress space, when they launch a product or even a productized service, it's very much around the sort of the tech side of things. Manage WordPress hosting, a WordPress theme, a WordPress plugin, or some combination of all three. You're launching a product called agencydocs.co. I mean, it is launching, not launching. It is already launched. Tell me the sort of thinking behind that. What was the genesis, and why did you come up with this idea of all things?
Oh boy, yeah. So this agency docs is like, I would say, the product of last resort. So what I mean by that is, so actually, I mean, a lot of things you mentioned, the kind of WordPress product or kind of tech product, I've gone there and explored, and so I think just to take it back, when my co-founder and I started back in 2006, this was when like I think this whole Web 2.0 stuff was still in full gear, and like SaaS products were coming into vogue. And I think as we started making websites for clients, we were like, hey, we need to do everything we can to become like the next Basecamp, right? So in our mind, we had to productize or create some kind of product that could get us some kind of recurring revenue, or at least be something that we get from customers and not clients. And so, our first product was a WordPress theme called Launch Effect, and it was like a viral, one of those things where you sign up and then you get like a code that you could share with folks, and then that gets you more chances to win something. So it was actually pretty popular. We did over 30,000, downloads. With that, and we actually had a paid version, and for a while it was grossing, around $30,000 to $40,000 a year. So I was like, okay, that's a product that we launched and grew. But I think at a certain point, like the upkeep was just too much, and it was taking away from our more lucrative client work. And then we also did a SaaS product called Project Flow, where we ran that for a good 3-4 years, and had some paying users as well, but just never could devote the resources and the sales and marketing to scale that up. And so last year we sunset that project too. So, and there's other ones in the graveyard, but those are the two that kind of sucked a lot of my time. And so I kind of almost had a embargo put on me, like you can't make these products anymore, or come up with these dinky product ideas unless there are some restrictions. And so I think a light bulb went off in my head a few months ago, actually at least earlier this year, when we were doing a lot of revisiting our process documents. So things like, what does our project briefs look like? What do our project kickoff docs look like? What do our checklists look like? And as we were going through that process, I was like, hey, this is cool. Like, I'm sure there, as we're making these things streamlined for ourselves, I'm sure there are agencies out there who'd love a peek at this. And I remember writing like a blog post like maybe 3-4 years ago about like, oh, I would pay like $1,000 to be able to see an agency's all their documents, right? Like if I could go in and look at what their proposals look like, what their project schedules look like, I'd pay for that privilege. And so that kind of bubbled up again with this, and I was like, hey, why don't we just make a little site that sells something, our own documents? I'm putting in the work. Our whole team is putting in the work to make these better. So why not package these, and clean it up? Obviously, not give out any, of our private client info, but make it useful for these agencies, and just sell them as a digital product, and knowing what we know with Shopify and how easy it is to put together a site. And the other rule that's put on me since these failed projects is, I can't steal resources from our agency to do these things. So I just put up on myself. I was like, all right, give myself a day to build this, and just get it out the door. Let's see what can happen. And within 8 hours or so, I was able to launch a e-commerce site and start selling.
I mean, there's so many good threads of thought that I'd like to unpack there. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it, I guess I do know what it is. And what I think I'll do is I'm just going to blame Basecamp and Jason Fried for all of this stuff, because so many of us started our agencies back when Basecamp was, really hitting the ground running, and they started investing in sort of talking about repurposing their work and their time. And I just feel like so many of us that started agencies back 2006, 7, and 8, for whatever reason, we all wanted to create products. And it was like we started this services business and we're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to start this thing, but we really want to focus on products. Like, why didn't we just start a product business first? And I mean, I know the answer is we're bootstrapping or getting some cash in, and things like that. But it's crazy, this desire to start a product for so many people. And then your statement of failure, right? You went out and you tried things, and I think so many people do that too. And a lot of people are maybe afraid to talk about it. And you spend all this time, building a product, and you get it out there, and it fizzles out for whatever reason. Not the right product fit, not enough, man hours invested in developing it, or lastly, certainly not giving it enough time to market itself, or you to create a marketing plan. For whatever reason, you're in that sort of second or third chapter of your product life now, only to stumble upon, which I think another thing that a lot of people do is only to stumble upon this thing that took you 8 hours, and has probably generated you thousands of dollars at this point, and you're like, my God, why didn't I just do this to begin with? And you're just like, wow, I spent all of this brain power and all this other brain power from all of my other teammates, and I did this in 8 hours, and look what happened. It's just amazing, and I see that time and time again too. It's just crazy, the roller coaster ride that product development is.
Yeah, I don't. So luckily, I don't feel too much of regret in that sense, because for me, it's like, well, it took all those mistakes and experiences to kind of help me wisen up and make some more prudent decisions at this point. And I think it's almost like yes, it's 8 hours, but it's also like 11 years of being in business plus those 8 hours, right?
Exactly.
So I think the thing is, like, just in terms of like it was really sweet to see, like, minimal effort, and then like immediately I'm like, oh cool, like this paid for like all the Shopify fees for for the next year, like within the first week. Like, okay, great, like everything else is gravy. So like it's nice to see that, and then I can go back to my partners and be like, hey, this is generating some real cash. Like, now can I borrow somebody to help me do some more marketing on this, and they can do that with more confidence.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I just put out a post yesterday, and a bit of a monologue on the podcast, and it's about being a blue collar digital worker, and I really think that folks shouldn't apologize for their failures. They shouldn't be one to shy away from admitting that, and like you said, not regretting it at the same time, because without those failures and without bumping into the wall, we wouldn't have figured out where we are today, right? It's that culmination of the journey that really gets us, to where we are. And I think you see this a lot, right? To put it in a grander scope, like when people hit the lottery, right, and they win millions and millions of dollars, only to go bankrupt, right? Because they don't know how to manage money. They've never been in this space before, and it's like that in the tech world too. I mean, they get millions and millions of dollars of funding, and they're like, "What are we buying? Which Ferrari are we buying? Which penthouse suite are we getting?" And these folks are just like focused on the wrong things, and these grassroots efforts are really the ones that survive. So info products, you and I chatted a little bit before through email on this topic, info products, and where you see this space going, and this product for your company going. I see this a lot in the internet marketing world where it's like, hey, buy my PDF, buy my course. It's $3,000, but you're going to be a guru by the end of it. I
Mm,
like what you're doing because it is fundamentally pulled from your success, right? Like it is like you can see that your agency is a thriving agency. There's human beings working there. You are a brand that people are hiring. And oh, by the way, here's maybe the secret sauce that we use to build this company. Whereas internet marketing stuff is a lot of smoke and mirrors. So a couple questions here is where you see this product going for
mhm.
yourself and what's your take on the info product space?
Yeah. I think, I mean, just think about like info products in general, and I think done right, there's definitely value to them, and I'm thinking about, particularly like, there's some internet marketers I follow, obviously like Ramit Sethi and like Pat Flynn, for example, like those guys. I think.
What about Derek Halpern?
Oh yeah, Derek Halpern too, definitely. Yeah, and like those guys all have, I think they've demonstrated, like what you can do, if you excel in that space. And I really enjoy reading, their emails or their, the different types of marketing tactics that they're employing. There's a lot to learn there that I, will pick up and be like, hey, client, these are some tactics that we can employ for your business. So I think you're right. Like, I think there's a lot of imitators or, scammy type of imitators who are giving info products a bad name. But, at the elite level, there's definitely a lot that I personally admire and think, can be something I hope agency docs can do. And part of that, the one thing that I always think about is, I think Remy Sethi always talks about it. Like, he's like, give so much value that, like I think he gives away, he always talks about giving 99% of stuff away for free. And so gives so much value that, like, the whoever is coming to your site and, is experiencing your brand, just feels like that it's, without even having paid a cent, it's still something that they can, feel good about. And so when I started with the agency docs model, I was like, okay, let's make sure we're, giving away docs for free too. And obviously that's part of that is the whole, like, let's get them into the funnel, and obviously we're going to hit them up with some retargeting and all those things. But I think first and foremost, I want folks to be like, all right, I'm going to get to see what they do for comp reviews, or I get to see what they do for like maybe a questionnaire or something like that. And then if they, if it's of use to them, maybe they'll come back and buy something. And so a short-term goal is definitely like increase the free offering so that, even if you never spend a cent, like you'll feel like you've gotten, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of, you know, uh, kind of document experience or kind of expertise from our site.
Yeah. So where do you see your product going in the future? Are you going to just expand on the library,
Mhm.
maybe do a traditional video course, or are you thinking something more out of the box where it's in-person workshops, or just something else that I haven't seen yet?
Yeah, so okay, going back to like our, you know, I'm totally focused on Barrel first and foremost. So everything has to be in service of, Barrel. So all these extracurriculars, which, agency docs is an extracurricular. Um, and so what for like the kind of main motivation is that, the existence of agency docs will spur the need for us to continue to streamline our processes and, the documents we have internally. And there's always things coming up. Like, for example, we're building out a content studio at Barrel so that we could, shoot videos and photography more easily for our clients, and, make sure that, we can offer that at a much more cost-effective package than, they might get with some of the bigger agencies. And so in doing so, we're generating a lot of new documents and processes that, we then have to, think about, streamlining. So that gives me agency docs gives me the motivation of like, okay, cool, we developed this. Now let's, make sure it's nice and really, well put together so that we can then, sell it on agency docs. So that's the primary kind of like engine, I would guess, that I would want agency docs to be. And so if we can do that for, on a continual basis, that in itself would be success. And then of course, agency docs as its own kind of you know subdivision or sub business. Yeah, definitely wanted to pay for itself and then generate profit on top of that. So the moment that like it doesn't do that, I have no qualms about shutting it down. But like I said, we've kind of built up a little cushion at this point, so we can try some things, and excited to see where that takes us.
Nice. Um, you know, there's man, I could talk to you for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours about sort of all of this stuff and sort of the balance, that it takes to do all of this. Are you focused on? Well, let me actually take a step back. So years ago, one of the folks that I had on the podcast, a gentleman named Jose Caballero, he had a similar setup to what you're doing with agency docs, where he spent a lifetime in big agencies, traditional and in digital. Worked for a big agency called Razorfish. Sort of ran that on the West Coast for a little while. Their West Coast division. And he started this product called the School Rocks, and it was basically a agency in a box kit, is sort of maybe similar to what you have here. When I interviewed him, one of the problems was we talked about, like, one of the big emphasis he had was coaching people on how to sell to clients, and more specifically how to get more money, right? But not more money in the sake of just getting more money, but to get the value that you deliver, right? Don't sell something for $1,000 if you can get $100,000 for it, but still provide the $100,000 worth of value to your customer. And at one point he asked me to change the headline of the blog post of our podcast post, because his clients were finding the blog post when they were Googling him, right? Before they hired him. So there was sort of this, this tightrope that one walks when you give away the secret sauce of running your agency, and at one hand you're servicing people who are running other agencies. On the other hand, you're servicing clients still. Mm-hmm. Has that come up with your partners at all? And how do you sort of address that? How do you play both sides?
Yeah. So I would say, like at the end of the day, you can give, folks the playbook, right? Because in a sense, this is like the playbook, but I mean, if you don't mind the sports analogy, right? Like it comes down to execution, right? And like I think, and the talent that you have on your team. So like this is merely the playbook that we're selling, and it's like even there, like you can there's all kinds of audibles that happen, when you're running a project, when you're dealing with clients. And so, like the playbook will only get you so far. It will get you in a good place. Like, like it'll make you, it'll help you hopefully establish processes and, set you on the right track. But, what it comes down to so many, other factors and, really fundamental stuff like, agencies need to hire the right people. They need to, train folks. They need to, follow through on their promise to clients. They need to maintain that relationship. So, those are things that we're not, that if anything, that's the secret sauce. And so, I would say, I'm more than happy to give away these things, and sell these kind of, process documentation and deliverables. But, at the end of the day, you can't, like every agency is going to be on their own when it comes to, executing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so true. So true. One last question here. Any plans to maybe get back into a traditional tech product or app or service or something like that? And this sort of just, sort of not idles, but sort of has a smaller growth climb versus maybe some other crazy idea you might have?
Well, I think more, I've thought about this a lot, and part of it is, I love, I love the idea of just like focusing on the business, because with that though, there are opportunities where, sometimes we come across clients with really good ideas and great ideas that might be early stage, and we can partner, and we have partnered with folks who, are at that stage, and, the the compensation doesn't always have to be all cash. There could be some other type of performance slash, equity based compensation. So, in that sense, like, it is, it's a little bit of both, right? Like we're still fulfilling our agency duties, but we're also able to scratch that itch of building product along with a client partner. So, I think there's those types of opportunities are plentiful these days. Like I think, and it's not just on the tech side too, where there's e-com where a lot of cool brands and products emerging, and can we help them in a very entrepreneurial way to accelerate their growth? And so I like I don't I'm not I don't feel like I'm deprived of those types of opportunities, while doing this consulting slash agency work. So, I think, if anything, I just want to make sure we're continuing to get better as a company and, servicing our clients.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing statement. And again, I hate to point back to Gary Vaynerchuk for all of these things, but when you look at sort of the entrepreneur as we sort of know it today, so many apps and other tech services are being celebrated, but look what Gary has done with a traditional agency model, or a traditional new age digital agency. I guess if you can mix traditional and digital in the same sentence, I guess you can now, since it's almost 2018. I mean, look what he's done with a services agency. I mean, in terms of if you were to compare that relative to an app, it'd be like an Instagram, right? Like selling to Facebook in terms of like growth from 0 to however many thousands of employees he has now, or 1,500 employees or whatever. Services is still a strong market. It's, when executed right, like you put it. And I think that technology changes so rapidly, to go into a traditional app or product, man, you have to be ready to fight that fight. Whereas if you're on the services side, let them innovate, and customers and clients will still need somebody like you and I and the folks listening to implement that in their business. And that's where we really win, is when we can leverage those different opportunities. Like you brought up, you might come across a client who needs that tech experience. They've got the idea. More importantly, they've got the money, and let's all execute on this together. So awesome stuff. Peter, I'm so glad that you emailed me. Thanks for that.
Well, thanks for having me.
Where can folks find you to say thanks?
Yeah, sure. So my Twitter handle is Peter Kang 34. Agency Docs also is on Twitter at Agency Docs.
Awesome. Everybody check that out. I think let me just take a look real quick. It's $349 for the high end, $329. It's on sale right now. I mean, it's when you look at Peter's agency site, the portfolio stuff that he's put out, and you see, the stuff that he has gathered up here at agencydocs.co. It's a tremendous value, and guess what, everybody? This is somebody who's not just teaching us the WordPress way of things. I think there's way too much of that nowadays, where everything's focused on the educational side of WordPress. There's a few out there that do things really well in the space, but it's getting kind of muddied now. Pure agency experience, client services, and things like that. That's what I really like about your product here. Check it out, agencydocs.co. Everybody else, it's mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. If you enjoy episodes like this, go ahead and leave a 5-star review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and listening to this episode and supporting the Matt Report. For over 5 years now, it's been a pleasure of mine. It was a pleasure to have this guest on today to talk about their business and how they run it. Speaking of business, if you have something you're launching, you have a new website, a new marketing page, a new product, anything that could use a second set of eyes, you can find me at userfeedbackvideos.com. That's userfeedbackvideos.com, where I will review your product, your landing page, your funnel, whatever workflow or starting point you want me to take a look at online. I'll do that. I'll record it. I'll send it to you in a private screencast with my feedback from over a decade of experience in this space, marketing, technology, WordPress, and otherwise. I hope to see you there. It's userfeedbackvideos.com. It's like having a co-founder for $59.